Hey guys, so clearly I'm not alone today. This is Leanna.
Hello.
Who are you?
I am a flutist freelancer from Seattle, and on Tumblr I'm known as Flute Rants.
And also used to be Angry Hedgie.
Yeah,
It was a long time ago.
I still have the Angry Hedgie account. I just don't do anything flute related from it.
I know. But we have been friends for probably about 4 or 5 years now, and we finally have met in Phoenix because both of us don't live here.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
We figured since both of us are kind of different types of freelancers, we'd talk about freelancing.
Heck yeah.
So what do you do in Seattle?
Okay, so in Seattle I do a lot of solo shows in like small chamber groups. I have a chamber group called Stack Effect that's flute and voice. I also do I have my own chamber series called Kin of the Moon, which is involving my duo and also a violist named Heather Bentley, and we bring in chamber players from all over the place, which is really exciting. We're bringing in like a composer from Chicago this June. Oh. So we're trying to make a chamber series, so I'm working on that, and aside from that, I play with some local groups. Like I play with the Seattle Modern Orchestra sometimes, I play with the Seattle Rock Orchestra sometimes. Just depends on what pops up.
Yeah. And then you guys kind of know what I do, but I'm more on the internet and less like actual gigs, so I don't get paid as much as you do. But
I don't get paid that much either.
But you have more opportunities. So I'm more about like my projects lead to grants.
Yes.
And lead to more funding through organizations like New Music USA and things like that. Yep. Which I mean yours do too.
Depending on what I'm doing.
Right. But the end game with my projects is really to create infrastructure.
Right.
And not to create necessarily like direct concert experiences.
Right, and mine is, with Kin of the Moon in particular, that chamber series, it is partially infrastructure, but it's mostly a concert series, so we're really trying to put together concerts and experiences. But yeah, a lot of my solo freelance work, I'll like bring my looper to a bar and then ask for donations afterwards. So I mean, like it's mostly just like hands-on concert experience.
Right, and then I focus on the internet and collaboration and creating connections and finding things through that.
Right.
So it's a different kind of freelancing, but they're both. I want to do more of what you do, so.
I want to do more of what she does.
Which is why we're friends.
Yay!
But so like, what are some of the problems and the roadblocks that you've encountered since you've been out of school like a year and a half?
A year. I've been out of school for a year now, like officially actually. I graduated in December, so kind of on a weird like half cycle. So yeah, it's been a year, and it's interesting because I've had the most growth this year being out of school than I've had in the previous years at all. But I think a lot of it has to do with like being able to establish yourself in a place. Like I think a lot of times when it comes to flutists, a lot of times you think of like, oh, I have to chase after this orchestra job, or I have to chase after this professor job in the middle of nowhere,
or I have to be better than everyone.
Exactly. And you are chasing across the country for who knows what and who knows where, and instead I think you and I both do this kind of in the same way, where we both picked a city and we're like, I'm going to make my connections here and I'm going to make it happen here.
And then also do think like we're both in Phoenix for a festival right now with our respective groups.
Right.
So doing things outside of the city that we're in to kind of create connections outside that can lead to other things later, and also are fun.
Yeah, totally. No. I love music festivals in particular because it's not so much about the money as it is like, let's meet everyone in this scene and see all the range, because like so far I've seen some student performances, I've seen some professional performances, I've seen
some like in between. Like I think both of us kind of have an idea of it's not just this, like while you're establishing yourself in a city, being able to be exposed to what everyone else is doing and be inspired by that and collaborate with them is also a big thing.
Very important.
And seeing what else people are doing, because like I wouldn't be doing some of the things that I'm doing without like seeing what you're doing and seeing what some of the other Tumblr people are doing. And
no, I definitely like picked doing the barrio partially because of conversations that we had.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love the barrio, but like it was also one of those like, do I really want to do the barrio sequenza? And then I was
like, yes, you do. Like the great thing about freelancing in new music is that it's not just, we're not trying to be better than each other. Like, clearly we both play the same instrument and we're both in the same field, but it's a collaborative project. Like, what she does doesn't take away from what I do, and vice versa. And in fact, like, some of the things that you do, I'm like, oh, I really want to do that. Okay.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think it's the great thing about playing new music and not playing orchestral excerpts every single day is that we can be very creative in very different ways, and so we don't have to butt heads.
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
And even if you are doing the same thing, there's so much room for people to do the same thing.
Totally.
Because I want my piece, like the pieces that I commission, I want other people to play.
Yeah,
I don't want them to just be mine.
Right.
Like, in my experience, I have had a lot of trouble. Like, I really kind of expected to do more of what you're doing, and Chicago wasn't really welcoming to that originally. And it's just because I didn't go to school there. You at least, like, you had gone to school where you started.
Yeah.
And so you had built up those connections over the course of being in school.
Right, exactly.
Whereas I moved somewhere after school and had to kind of find my way.
I do think, though, that, like, there's, like, this year that you have to take if you're going to establish yourself in a city.
Oh, for sure.
Where you're not in school. Because if you are in school, you're so worried about everything else that you can't possibly, like, make those connections. And so you haven't quite reached a year yet.
No, I've been a year and a half.
Okay, year and a half. So
no, and that's why it's feeling more like that's why I'm getting more things. And,
exactly. Yeah, but like, the first year's so hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
And I also would recommend like looking into the teaching situation wherever you're moving.
Yes. Very much.
Because I ended up in a city where the opportunities are few and far between.
Yes, I agree. I'm really working on establishing a studio, but it is so tough because there are so many phenomenal flute teachers
and so few students.
And so few students.
Yeah.
So it's, looking into teaching. I have one friend who moved to Oklahoma.
Texas. Oh, Oklahoma. Okay.
Oklahoma, and she had a huge studio for a while because she lived in a part of town where there was a lot of students and not a lot of teachers.
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things where you kind of have to skip out.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of the things is Texas has all the students because of the band system.
Yes.
So if you can be willing to live in Texas, you can get the students. Yeah. But for what we do, you kind of don't want to be in Texas because they don't have what we want to do.
Right.
And you're not necessarily going to find the musicians that do what you want to do, and like everything we do is collaborative.
But programming as a whole is just a huge problem in the new music in
all the music world.
And so especially in new music, because we are in the position that we're in, one of the things that I'm super like crazy passionate about when it comes to my own like programming and then like my chamber programming is I haven't played a work by a dude since August.
I have, but
because you're doing like that. But, and that's fine. Like, you should totally play everybody's things, but I'm really focusing on the music of women because who else is?
We actually, our concert tomorrow, or concert in like 2 hours, is entirely women performers. Yeah. And I think there's probably one male composer, and that's one of my composers. Yeah. Because the other two are women.
Right.
And so, I know you guys. And I presume
the lady composer is over there.
Yeah.
On that wall.
So like but I definitely, having done the 365 and seen 150 scores written by living composers from all around the world, there's a huge resource that we're not using.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like, especially if you look at like orchestral programming, and I do work for a symphony. That is my day job. I work in marketing for a symphony, and I look at what we're programming, and sometimes it breaks my heart because even those symphonies that I really, really believe in maybe program one female composer per year, and that's maybe that's a maybe, and that's
even then it's like touted as their big inclusive thing, and it's not just a normal like programming female composers should just be part of what you do because they're good composers and they write good music.
And this might seem tangential to like the whole
freelancing thing, but programming is such a big part of what we do.
Exactly. And like that's part of the cool thing, I guess, about working in new music is that you really get to be an advocate for the things that you believe in, as long as you actually apply it to your work. And so programming people of color and programming women, it's such a huge thing.
And even just like So what I discovered through the 365 is there's an incredible wealth of composers from South America who don't get their music played. So what I do doesn't look like programming all the time because with the 365 I was literally just playing what was in my inbox, but with 52 I kind of curated it and everything like that. And I was looking for the best pieces. I wasn't looking for it wasn't
diversifying.
Like right, exactly. Like I wasn't gonna pick a piece just because it was written by someone of a minority. No, totally. But when I looked at everything and I actually programmed, I had 5 women out of the first 20 and some people from all around the world and minorities, and there were a lot of people who weren't white Americans.
Well, because when you open the gates towards just anyone, the people who stand out are not necessarily going to be white and male.
Right, exactly.
But the difference is that with a lot of larger organizations, or even just like higher, more well-known chamber organizations, is that the gates aren't open. They are already looking at a small pool that only has so many women and so many minority people. So what you're doing with like the 52 is really cool because there's no
while I might choose the pieces that I'm getting have no limitations. Right, exactly.
And that's super freaking cool. So
and it's not that I don't want to do everything. It's just physically
that's impossible.
I don't have the time or the energy or the means.
Yeah, no.
So
really can't. And for me, I end up programming music by women partially because I do want to see that representation, and I honestly believe if you see it, it'll happen more. So if you're part of that, that'll happen more. But it's also just because some of these pieces are just really freaking cool.
I know.
So I'm playing tonight. I'm playing this piece by Kate Sober,
which is amazing. And if you don't know it, you need to check it out because it is so cool.
It's called "Only the Words Themselves Mean What They Say," and it is.
I'll link it.
It is one of the coolest freaking pieces I've ever seen.
I think the last thing is, how did you get into new music?
Oh, God. Okay, so when I was in my undergrad, I had a really phenomenal flute professor. My professor was Dr. Christine Erlander-Beard,
who is awesome.
Is incredible. She's a piccolo extraordinaire, but also a huge new music advocate. And I'd been studying with her before I went to undergrad, so I'd known her forever. And every time she saw something new, she'd be like, "Hey, maybe you'd like this." And so I kind of started inching into that world. And then I took a class of music from 1920s onward, and I was like, this is amazing. And so I found other people in that class who were like, "Why aren't we playing this stuff?" So we formed a new music ensemble called Ensemble 768, which is located at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. It's their modern music ensemble now. But we
I didn't know that was you.
But we actually founded it, which was really, really cool. And it was basically me and some friends being like, "Can we play The Voice of the Whale by George Crumb? It's such a cool piece." And so after that, I was just like, this is what I want to do. I just want to keep playing weird stuff where I wear masks and have blue lights, I just want to do really interesting experiences with different kinds of audiences and different kinds of setups.
And working with living composers.
And working with living composers is my favorite thing. So, that's how I got here.
I think I've talked about this a few times, but I was really lucky that Cleveland has a contemporary only orchestra.
Right.
Which it's like baby's first contemporary. In terms of what I do now, it doesn't even line up with with that kind of world. But you premiere 2 or 3 pieces a year.
Yeah.
And they're not super outrageous, but you get your feet wet into working with music that's never been played before. Yeah. And then I went to Toronto, where new music is just part of what you do,
which is amazing, and I love them for it.
Yeah, it's not something that you do that's extra. There are new music ensembles that do, but the bands and the orchestras all program new music. There's a new music festival every year that you basically have to be a part of if you're in large ensembles, and it's kind of just established that you play in composer concerts if people ask you to.
Which I cannot emphasize how cool that is, because not every university
No, exactly. That. And both of us did our masters at a school where that wasn't the case.
Exactly.
And that in fact is what pushed me as off the edge, was going to a school where no one did it.
Same.
And going, okay, this is really something that I want to champion. Definitely freelancing as a contemporary musician isn't something that is other or different or even something that is impossible anymore.
Yeah, no.
You don't have to be Claire Chase.
No.
Though we all kind of want to be.
We all want to be Claire Chase.
I will admit I want to be Claire Chase.
Everyone wants to be Claire Chase.
But You don't have to be.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of opportunities that you can create yourself, and mostly that you create yourself, but also that you can do by hard work and working, networking, and finding the right people.
And I do have to put in that, like, you know, I work a day job.
I do too. I don't even work in music.
And like, you know, we're still just working our asses off on music too. So like, you know, it's a tough road. It's not easy to be a freelancer in any way.
I think both of us have had moments where it was like, why am I doing this?
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, it's worth it. As long as you just keep kicking. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for, I guess I'm in your house right now, so thanks
My
for having me.
Yeah. This is not my room.
No, we're like both in Phoenix, so you know. But I'm excited we finally got to talk in person and not through the internet.
So cool.
And
so weird.
We're recording a video for her channel as well. If that when that's up, I will link it and all that YouTuber jazz. And go check her out too, because she does videos every Sunday and they're awesome.
Every Sunday I improvise something new, so